big welcome back to Purple Noon, the podcast. I'm Stephanie Conti, and I am here with the K to my Al. Very obscure reference. Probably no one's going to know unless you read the title what we're talking about. Savanna Lanausse.
Love that. It's never a bad day to be Kim Novak. Never.
Never a bad day to be Kim Novak or compared to Kim Novak. So how are you doing, Savanna?
I'm dapper. How are you?
That doesn't sound dapper. I'm dapper. How are you? Are you sure dapper is the right? You seem pretty chill.
No, I'm having my Dunkin'. I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, never mind. It's just the Dunkin' hasn't kicked in yet, right?
I have not to, my brain isn't working right now, but not to distract from the conversation. But Dunkin' has this great, it's called the Caramel Crazed Iced Latte. It's very good in case anybody wants to go get one. So good. Yeah,
and when you subscribe to our Patreon, that is what she gets. When you subscribe to the tier that's like pay for our coffee. I use a Keurig because I haven't driven in 3 months. And it's not to say I don't think I can drive again, but like, I got all I need here. I'm like SpongeBob in that one episode where it's like he has the three things in front of him. He's like, I got all I need. Yeah, indoors. So I just make I take a New Orleans coffee grounds. I put it in like a K-cup adapter. So I pack it tight and I almost do like a ghetto espresso.
Guys, it's so funny. We went on a trip, I think, early March, like I want to say March 14th to New Orleans, and that is the last time anybody has seen Stephanie. She has legit not left her house since March 14th, so a full 2 months.
I really haven't. So it was so I get like the little Keurig K-cup. I pack it in. I pack this in, make my little ghetto espresso, and then because I don't have creamer, I discovered if you take like a very nice flavor of a protein shake, like already pre-made protein shakes. Pour that in as your milk and creamer. Boom. So I have King Cake New Orleans coffee with a salted caramel protein shake. You get a lot of benefits from the protein shake. It tastes super good, super sweet. So that's what I've been drinking on the regular.
That sounds good. I like that.
So yeah, if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, just go Patreon.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James. All right. So before we talk about the movie we're going to talk about, I had told you last week about this trivia fact I discovered that completely like blew my mind because I never heard of this before. And I've heard of like, different onset accidents. And, last week it didn't make sense to put it because we were going to talk about Before the Lobster. It's like, why are we going to talk about this and then talk about an even more depressing film? So the trivia fact that we found out. So, Savannah, I asked you, so you're familiar with the Twilight Zone movie, right?
I never seen it, but I am familiar with it. I'm a big Twilight Zone TV show fan. Yeah. But I've never seen the actual film, no.
So, I know the Twilight Zone movie for, I think it's John Lithgow. He's on the plane and he sees like this little creature on the wing, just like destroying the entire plane and stuff. I remember that vividly, but I don't remember ever growing up and hearing exactly what happened during the filming of this movie. Mm-hmm. So there's an actor named Vic Morrow, and he has a scene where I think I haven't watched the movie since, but pretty much essentially I think he's like an arms dealer of some type. And he's in Vietnam, I believe. I could be wrong. But he ends up saving 2 children, and he's crossing a river. I don't know how this led. I don't know what storyline led to this, him crossing a river with 2 children in arms. But there's supposed to be a helicopter that flies over the set. The helicopter crashed on all 3 actors. And I never heard of that before. I've never heard of an accident because, we've heard of Bruce Lee's son on The Crow. We've heard of a bunch of different things that have happened, but I have never heard of something that crazy, where literally a helicopter fell on all 3 actors, killing them.
And I was telling Stephanie, like, the fact that that happened and the film was released was just insane to me.
It was insane. And so I have a bunch of trivia here, and it's very eerie, creepy trivia. So if you don't want to get spooked, you should skip a little bit. But apparently there's a lot of things that led up to this, of Vic Morrow pretty much saying, like, of him always going, I'm terrified of dying in a helicopter accident. Oof. And it's crazy how many people actually have heard him say that. So he took out like $1 million life insurance policy before the scene, and he was very insistent. And when people kept asking him why, he would say, and this is IMDb, this is said by a production assistant. And he said, I've always had this premonition that I was going to die in a helicopter, which is insane in the membrane.
Scowy.
And like, one of his last words before that filming of the scene was, I should have asked for a stunt double.
Isn't that creepy enough?
That's so creepy. And like I said, I never knew about that until I just happened to be on TikTok, and someone actually played, like, they were like, oh, craziest accidents I have on set. Like, it was just a weird random TikTok on my For You page. And when I clicked on it, it showed they had it recorded, and they still have the footage. And at first I was like, no way. So of course I went to IMDb and looked it up, and it's true.
That's really... And like, now you can never, I've never seen the movie, and I probably won't because of that. You can never, people that actually like grew up enjoying this movie, I don't think you could see it the same again.
I call it the poltergeist principle, where everyone thought everyone in Poltergeist died, and that's why no one would see it. But meanwhile, not everyone in Poltergeist died. There were just 2 tragic deaths resulting from Poltergeist. So one of them was in Poltergeist, the little girl, she had a severe Crohn's disease. And by the filming of the 3rd film, which, who watched the 2nd and 3rd? I did. And it wasn't good as the 1st. But during the 3rd film, there was a scene where she's in like a ice water, like being pulled out of ice water, and it's very cold. And she ended up contracting pneumonia. And because of her Crohn's disease, it made her very susceptible to this. Oh. And she passed away at like 13 from it.
Oh, that's horrible. That's really sad.
And the sister, the sister from the first Poltergeist film, she like passed because her boyfriend at the time was psychotic and killed her.
Oh God.
Yeah, those were the only like biggest things that I ever knew in terms of like creepy stuff. But this is probably,
I've heard not to get off topic or anything, but I've also heard like creepy stuff about the Exorcist film. I've never seen also the Exorcist film, but I heard a lot of things happen that were weird on the movie, but
there were a lot of things that were weird about, like, I think some paranormal things that they kept saying. I think really what to me would have been the most scariest is like being this young 14-year-old girl, Reagan, the character who plays Reagan, Linda, oh crap, what's her name? Linda Blair, thank you so much. Linda Blair, she got like death threats from the age of 13 all the way till now because she was in this movie.
Who sends death threats to a 13-year-old? To directly a 13-year-old, like why?
To a 13-year-old is absolutely insane. Like if you want to, like, it surprises because it's like, I think the girl who Linda Blair got the most, then it was the director, and then it was the writer, and it's like, shouldn't the writer? He's the one who saw all of this stuff up. Pin it on him.
Seriously, I did actually want to talk about the Twilight Zone show because it's definitely one of my favorites. I'm a big fan. I've heard that there's a new one, right? Like they made a new one.
Yeah, hosted by Jordan Peele.
I heard it sucks. The reviews are horrible. I haven't seen it. This is not coming from me, but I was interested in it and I looked it up and like all the reviews are like 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. Like this show is awful. And I was disappointed because I'm like, what an awesome idea to like redo that. But unfortunately, like,
I think it was only made for just to grab money, and then also keep in mind, I think it was like a CBS Access exclusive, so you had to have like a membership to CBS. So, I mean, I personally don't like it when shows do that, because it's like everyone, like almost majority of people can access Netflix and can access Hulu, but then why are you throwing on top of all these other memberships? Like, it's crazy how, it used to just be like, oh, just go on Netflix. Netflix is the one. Now it's like Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Criterion, blah, 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 blah. It's like, Jesus.
There's so many.
It's cheaper than cable. It's still cheaper than cable, which makes no sense to me.
If you buy all of them, if you have all these things, like, is it really? Because if you have Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple, Netflix, Prime, Criterion, CBS, I guess, like, I feel like
I
becoming a scam a little bit, but that's just
because at least my family, they've been deciding whether or not to do it. Like, me and my dad watch Jeopardy, so that's really like the one thing gripping us on to to public TV is because we need our Jeopardy. But like, you can easily be paying because you don't have cable, right?
No, because I don't want to get into it, but it was a scam. So I stopped. It was ridiculous.
That's fair. And I have a TV in my room, but I have Prime, Netflix, Hulu. Like, I share Hulu and Netflix, and then Savanna and I have our Criterion. But yeah, like, if that's, like, for me, that's all I need. Maybe I throw in Disney Plus when people start harpering me like, you have to see The Mandalorian. Then I might join for Disney Plus. But right there, that's like less than $30 a month, and like cable can easily be.
I was paying some ridiculous amount for cable. That's why I stopped. And honestly, like, I didn't have so my parents still have cable, and when I want to access things like TLC Go or like HBO and things like that, they give me their. I shouldn't be saying this. Never mind. I don't have any of that stuff. Don't get me. I'm sorry that they're gonna like make a law now that I can't do that anymore. Never mind. I don't do that. I just have Netflix.
No, I didn't hear Jack.
No, but
what are you talking about? I'm blacked out.
I think cable is good for certain things because I do love TLC. 90 Day Fiance. I do like watching things like that. A lot of the times, unless you want to pay for the separate subscription, things like HBO, you do need like a cable if you have it. Fox Now, FX Now, American Horror Story. Like, there's a lot of things that you do need cable for if you want to like watch the new stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think at the end of the day, my parents watch Jeopardy and the news. That's what we use it for. But I go on YouTube for news, and I'm not like finding out from some YouTuber what's going on in the world.
You could watch it on like the actual news on YouTube.
Yeah, there's this I've watched it from time to time. If I watch a news, like, to go know what's going on in the world, I watch BBC, or I'll watch, I think it's Abu Dhabi's network there, because I just like, there's more. It's so much more professional.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I get the information and I go. I don't need to hear about someone's grandkids doing something good.
That's me. Okay, I'm sorry. I just read this right now.
I thought you were talking about me. I thought I did something wrong because I didn't want to hear about someone's grandkid being born.
I know we have to get into the review, but guess what? Do you like Hamilton, or is it me? Am I the only Hamilton fan? Do you like Hamilton?
My dog is named Hamilton. I liked him. I know nothing about the Broadway play, to be completely honest.
You like the music? Okay. Well, anyway, it's coming to Disney Plus in July. Like, I think it's the film, or like it's either the actual like Hamilton movie, or it's like the recording of the Broadway show. I don't know.
That'd be cool, though.
So I'm really excited. So you need to get Disney Plus now. Support your dog. Same name.
I named him Hamilton because he looks like a Hamilton, because he looks so regal, like a little king.
Imagine just hearing his name. He's gonna get so excited. Alexander.
He's gonna be so confused. He's gonna be like, "What is going on?"
Anyway, sorry. I'm really excited.
You're good.
Okay, so let's get into the movie.
now we are going to talk about Five Against the House. So before we get into the review, I'm going to give a little brief synopsis, who's behind the film, yada, yada. Cool. So the plot against Five Against the House, so it's a 1955 film, and it's about 4 veterans attending college on the GI Bill, and a cabaret singer try to rob a Reno casino and pull off the perfect crime. It's directed by Phil Carlson. There's several different accredited writers, so like Sterling Silliphant and William Bowers, and it stars Guy Madison, Kim Novak, Brian Keith, Alvy Moore, Kieran Matthews. So that's the main cast. So before we get into all the spoilerly bits, Savannah, what is your verdict on Five Against the House?
Oh, okay. It's not a bad film. And I could see why it's in the Criterion, because I think it has a lot of good themes and a lot of things that needed to be talked about back then. But I don't think by far, I don't think it's one of the best films we've seen.
And it's definitely, I can say it's not one of the best of its time.
Yeah, there was just a lot of, I thought a lot of strange things added in there, like, because it's a heist movie, essentially. It's about them trying to rob a casino, essentially. And basically, they do a lot of weird things. Like, most of the movie is them just sort of planning and hanging out. And then there's Kim Novak, who's beautiful in the film. I didn't think she was bad, but I do feel like she was a little unnecessary. And there were just a little bit of unnecessary scenes with her. Like, they're in the car and she just starts singing. And I'm just like, and it's a long singing scene. And I'm just like, okay, we don't.
And guess what? She's not even singing. It's not even Kim Novak singing.
I don't
like, what a tease. I was like, oh my god, Kim Novak is good. And I looked it up, and guess what? It was not Kim Novak.
That's really funny. But it's definitely not the best film. Would I recommend it? Probably not to somebody. And I feel bad saying that, because I do see a lot of potential in the movie, but it's just, it feels really long. It's only like an hour and a half. Felt really, really long, because an hour is just them doing nothing. An hour is just them doing nothing. You get to know the characters a little bit, and that's it. Like I said, there are some really good themes. I could see why they put it in the Criterion channel, but as for me, I didn't really care for it. What did you think, Steph?
This is the type of film, like, if one of our friends was like, should we watch it? I'd be like, no, you're gonna fall asleep, because there's not a lot of action in it. Yeah. But if I would recommend this to someone, if someone was learning about, like, let's say if someone like came to me and was like, hey, I want to be a writer and director, and one of the things I want to write about is I'd like to write about a war movie. I would put this on the list just because I think it's a good stepping stone into the genre of war films. Even though this self is not a war film, it has an element about it that we will discuss later that I think would be a nice stepping stone, and because for its time, this stepping stone is pretty significant, and that's why we believe it's in the Criterion. But overall, it just kind of, this is the type of thing where I don't like remakes, but Hollywood, give me the script to this. I will bring justice to this, because like, this is something that has so much potential, and it didn't. It kind of fell through the cracks. It does have a lot of potential, especially with today's modern technology, with, you know, all this stuff like that. I think it could be something really good.
Yes,
in terms of if it was remade.
I think you're right. I think like this has a lot of potential to be remade, and it should, because the story itself isn't bad. But at the same time, have you ever seen The Best Years of Our Lives?
I have not.
So it's about, I'm not trying to get off topic, but like these World War II veterans, they come home and they sort of realize like their families and their lives are forever changed because of the war. And I always look at that as like a perfect example of like what these men go through, the aftermath of the war. And I feel like that's what they were trying to go. They were trying to take that route with this movie. And I feel like if it were to be remade, I think they could sort of hit it on the nose. So I think you're totally right about that.
Yeah, and I think also we have this issue in Hollywood where, especially today, what we remake is things that we already loved and enjoy. When we should be, if we are going to do remakes, if we need to do remakes just to put something out there, it should be because it didn't work for its time.
Totally.
And this is something I think didn't work for its time, but could seriously, especially with now the advancements of knowledge and, of PTSD, this could definitely work today.
Yeah. Please don't remake Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. Don't do that.
Just leave them. Just leave them. Don't. If anyone touches The Godfather, it'll be me, and I will fight Hollywood tooth and nail to do it. I'm Italian. My uncle was in The Godfather. It's my born given right. Don't touch The Godfather.
Nobody touch Goodfellas. Nobody touch.
No. Go remake another Hellboy before you touch. Why did they remake Hellboy? It was only 5 years since the last one.
They keep doing things like that. Like, don't nobody want to see. But it's also like, you know what I don't like? What was it? What did it came out this year? The Arnold Schwarzenegger. What am I thinking of? I'll Be Back.
Terminator.
Why did they make another one? Why did we need that? We don't need things like that. Don't nobody want to see that. I didn't want to see it.
Well, Terminator is like, it's a big category. Like, and I'm not to say that it doesn't deserve like a continuation. There's a lot of things you can do with Terminator, but it's like, why do we keep going back?
Make it new.
Why do we keep going back?
I don't care about Sarah Connor no more. I don't care. I don't care about any of that.
I want Terminator Salvation, but everyone's going to be like, ew, yuck, how dare you?
Dude, but like they're talking about like, I saw on Twitter at least, like there were like talks about making Back to the Future again. It's just like, nobody wants that. We are good with the 1985 version. We don't need another one.
We don't need that.
So if you...
I can't even imagine who would they want to cast. Who is it, Noah Centennial?
No. No.
Jeez. But like, this is the perfect example of like, I think we need to, if we're going to remake movies, it's because we need to bring back justice. It's because they had a quality about them that was fantastic, but due to its time frame, due to whatever it may be, it fell through the cracks. And this is definitely one thing that like, I think could be excellent. I think it has the potential to be almost like it kind of has like an Ocean's 11 feel. But I feel like it's an Ocean's 11 feel with its own little twist on it. So I feel like this movie could be successful, but in that way, it wasn't so successful for when it came out. And in terms of today, how I look at it as a movie, it wasn't very successful. There's a lot of gaps in it. And I just don't see, the modern audience liking this. I could see like someone like you and me, film geeks, and happy that we watched it, but the modern moviegoer, I don't think is going to appreciate it.
No. Yeah, I think you're right, Steph. I'm happy I saw the movie, but it's definitely not something that most people aren't going to like. And like, let's be honest, like if we weren't reviewing this, I probably would have shut it off midway because it was boring. Like, it is boring. The most of the film is not exciting.
The midway, yeah. It's the end. That's where the
30 minutes.
The caviar of this film lays is in the end. I think that attributes. So let's go into the spoiler zone now. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. None of these dudes look even remotely acceptable in a college area. Everyone looks 40.
This is the issue I have with movies from like, I want to say the 30s to maybe late 60s. This is the issue I had with Purple Noon. This is an issue I have with a lot of movies. Why do they cast men that are clearly 40 years old, that are supposed to be 23?
And the thing is like, they're supposed to, at least in my opinion, they're supposed to be the typical, veteran that shipped out at 18 and served 3 years and came back. That is what I'm assuming they are. They don't look like they were serving 10 plus years, in the line. But at the same time, they also don't look like college students remotely.
I assume because they also had the personality of like a 20. They were supposed to be acting like they were 23 to like 25, I want to say.
Yeah.
Dude, there was one guy that looked 45. No joke. There was one of them.
Brick.
Yeah.
Brick was the one who looked 45.
But even Al, I think the best looking one, still looked 30. He still looked 30, 32.
Yeah.
So I don't know why older movies, I mean, I assume it's because like better actors, I assume, were older. I don't really know what the problem was back then, but like that's one thing that takes a lot of realism out of the movie. I'll just say it. If you're giving me college boys that are like 40, I'm not going to believe it. I'm just not.
That's very true, especially with, and my thing is, so is this cabaret singer that Al is dating, Kim Novak's character, is she supposed to be like 30 as well? Is he like dating someone who's 10-year older?
Yeah, what was that? That was confusing too, because she's beautiful in the movie. She's stunning, but she doesn't look 22.
Yeah.
At least she's at least in her late 20s, and he's supposed to be like in college, so 23, 22. I don't know what that was about. Genuinely, they never cleared that up.
I had read trivia where the youngest person in terms of like the main character was born in 1926. So let's say this was made in 1953. That would have put them in the late 20s/30s range. Let me do the math in my head because I haven't done a math course without a calculator in 10 years.
Yeah, so this movie came out in 1955. So how old would they be?
So the youngest would have been 29.
Oh, God.
And everyone else would have been like 30, 31, 32.
Some of them were looking really old. I'm sorry, I feel bad, but some of them looked 40.
I mean, everyone was smoking cigarettes, drinking, at the workspace. That ages. That ages. Everyone looks so baby-faced because everyone just does vaping. No one drinks at work anymore. No one does any of that little socialite stuff. But I think that's why, like, I truly think that's why all of them look older, was because by the time they were like 13, like they were smoking cigarettes, like a pack a day and, drinking a bunch.
Yeah, that's
at least the majority were.
That's a good assumption because none of them look. Yeah. So like Stephanie said, like they were looking really old. And I do feel like that takes a lot of realism out of the movie. Like if you're casting someone that's clearly 35 for a 20-year-old position, unless they are super baby faced, unless they look super, super young, like now, like Logan Lerman in Hunters is like 28 and he's playing 10 years younger, but he looks 19.
He looks apart. I was going to say the cast of Riverdale. Have you ever seen Riverdale and looked up their ages?
Yeah.
The only person who is on the same age is KJ Apa.
Yeah.
Everyone else is older. When I worked on Jay and Silent Bob, trust me, I was like, oh, like these girls are younger than me. No, I was the youngest person on set. I couldn't believe it. It's kind of like reverse opposite from back then. Everyone looks so young now, but they're older. I mean, props to you. You're taking care of yourself now. You're probably not smoking so crazily and drinking heavily.
Nobody's drinking at work no more, so it's preserving everybody.
Yeah, we're not doing a Mad Men where, we're having, some cigarettes and sipping bourbon because it's been a rough afternoon. That was just having fun at work back in the day. Now it's called being an alcoholic.
That's really funny. So I'm going to say I'm going to say a positive and a negative about the movie. Negative.
Okay.
I didn't care about anybody except for, I think it's Brick and Ale.
Yeah.
Did not care about the rest of the gang. They were unimportant. Even Kim Novak to a point where like she was put kind of front and center a little bit. Didn't really care about her. But a positive is I think the friendship between Al and Brick was very authentic. And I did enjoy that.
Yes, I totally agree. That is where, so the ending of the film, and I also thought the way that they planned to rob this casino was brilliant. I really thought it was well thought, and I liked the idea of it. From like, I want to say like the last half an hour to the end, I was really paying attention. Everything else, I was just kind of like, oh, my phone is right next to me. What's going on Twitter? You know how it is. And I try so hard to do stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like when I was watching this film, that whole middle portion, I was like, this doesn't pertain to the story. Why should I care? And it was a lot of like, they're college students and they're like, oh, and like there's a freshman that's like, there's no hazing at this campus. Yay. And these seniors are like, nah, dude, there's always hazing with the seniors. And they just pull pranks on him and they're just mean to him. And it's like, what's more important, to show us what the authentic college lifestyle that me and you currently live through, or the robbery, which is the heart and soul of the film.
Yeah, the
So
film
that's where it
wasted
kind of
a lot of time.
it deteriorates, especially when it focuses on the college aspect. It's like, look, just mention that they're in college, and I wouldn't like mention it once. I wouldn't care if they look 40. I wouldn't care if they look out of that because the college element wouldn't have been so stressed. But then when they're in their dorms and they're hanging around, having a good old time, I'm like, these dudes are too old. I'd be calling the cops and dudes this old. We're just hanging out in my school, man. But I do think it really does have a lot of potential, especially that half-hour ending when they do the get up, when they go and actually formulate a plan to rob, and then especially the scene where, like you said, I thought I really like the character Brick. I like the character Brick.
Oh yeah, he's the heart of this movie. He's the star.
He carries it. And I liked one thing I wrote here. I did enjoy the setting. First of all, I've never seen a parking garage look like that before. I was fascinated every time the parking garage scene came up. I was like, what? You don't have to park in the parking garage? So I was just like, I couldn't believe that. I mean, have you ever seen a parking garage like that?
No, you're right. It was a bit fascinating, I will say.
That's how you know this movie was a little boring for us when we're talking about the parking garage, guys.
Because we live near Disney and we see the Disney parking garage. And do you know how many times we've been so close to getting into an accident with some sedan that thinks that they can go 50 miles an hour on the ramp? Like, but like, I thought that was really cool, but I also thought it made for a great use of setting, in terms of that end scene where Al is trying to confront Brick. I like the setting of it. It made it more creepy, like, with all the metal and stuff like that. I don't know. I just like the mise en scène of it. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's really funny. So with Brick, he's probably the reason I feel like he's the star of the show is because he is haunted the most by the war. He clearly has PTSD, and you see that a lot throughout the film. And the reason Al is important is because he's kind of the one. Well, Brick, it's revealed that Brick did save Al's life in the war, so Al is pretty much the only one out of the friends that really, really care and tries to protect him throughout the whole movie. So I like that dynamic a lot. I think that's a strong positive of the film.
Yeah, and I think also remember, in terms of, look, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I took one psychology course, and so I think that adds that friendship between them adds an element because, he was saved, the Al was saved, but at the end of the day, I can't imagine what a reminder it must be like to Brick to see the person he saved every day and to be reminded, because it's one thing to remind yourself like, wow, this guy saved me, then to remind yourself this guy almost died. I had to save him, and to just process that mentally, and you're reliving through that every day.
That's a good point.
I would imagine it could make you go crazy, like pretty much essentially how Brick goes. One of the things I did write, like, let's say if Hollywood came up to me and was like, Stephanie, here's 5 Against the House. We got the rights to it. What are you going to do with it? What I would change, I would make all the 4 guys done with college.
That's
and
good.
To make it more realistic.
Yeah.
Because there's a big issue, especially today, where even after work, after doing school and everything, a lot of the percent of homeless and a lot of percent of jobless are veterans because they struggle with PTSD or, whether it's they have a physical ailment from the war or from fight, whatever it may be. So I think if they were out of school and they were kind of down on their luck, it would make sense for them to rob it. It doesn't make sense for what seems like preppy college kids to go, let's go. Like it doesn't
I just realized
make sense. What would have made Yeah, they're all good. And one of them is rich. He's like, I have a plan. And they're like, well, you're using daddy's money, so I guess you could have a plan. And it's like,
why are you doing
it? It just would have made sense.
The only person that does, that's stupid because they're kind of just like, in my head, I'm just like, why are you doing this then? You have daddy's money. Like, it's fine. One of the things
scam your dad.
One of the things I did like about the movie, and I think fits very well with like what you want to do with it, is there's a scene where like Brick is like kind of saying like, hey, like when I graduate or if I'm not going to graduate. Like, I need this money for my future. Like, I don't have a future. And there's a weight on him because he feels like he can't get through it. And, he's also, Al brings up the point where he was also in the psych ward for a good amount of time. So I think that fits really well with what you want to do with the movie because, the character didn't feel like he would amount to anything after college or even if he would make it through college. So I think you're making an awesome point.
Yeah, and I think adding this bad backstory of like, here there are 4 veterans and, they went through school, they got their diplomas, but for some reason, majority of them could only get like a minimum wage job or, they thought, they spent all this, they spent all their time and energy getting a degree and only finding out like, because they have something, especially Brick, because he has PTSD, he can't get, he can't do a certain job because of how severe his PTSD is. Right. So that would have made more sense. And especially if we took Kim Novak and applied her to a more modern day setting, let's say we were going to remake this, I would say what would make sense, because it doesn't make sense how Kim Novak is wrapped in this. Why is she wrapped in this? Because she loves one of the boys. Just because you love one of the boys, that doesn't mean you get yourself revolved around in a crime when you're a nice cabaret singer and you probably already make good money. What would make sense to me is if I were to remake this, I'd probably make Kim Novak's character a dancer or a stripper, because it would make more sense for her to get involved if she needed money, or at least some type of, whether it be a sex worker or whether she'd be just in some position to where she would need money and she can't keep doing what she does.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do feel like the film maybe should have like fired her from, because I know like stripper is a little too risque for the 50s, but they could have done something where like they could have fired her or they could have took the job away, because I think you're right. Like, it didn't really make sense besides going with Ale, who she loved, whatever. Like, it didn't really make sense for her to like go and like get in the van and jump on in. So I agree with you there. I think like in modern times that could definitely work a lot better.
And I think in terms of the element of PTSD, because even though this, I do hail this film for having the PTSD attribute in it, because it is realistic. It is something that happens, and it's still something that is a little bit taboo to talk about in certain cases. Yeah. But I like the fact that even for a film that I would have never thought they mentioned PTSD, they mentioned it and they go through it and they show how it affects. I do think it's not the most, in terms of Brick, it's not the most realistic setup for PTSD. I think it's a little bit too drastic, in my opinion, because he kind of goes psychotic. And I think instead of him going psychotic and focusing on him just like losing his mind, it should have more focused on like a need for him to be in control. Like this desire to be a part and to control the situation and almost act like this situation, even though they're robbing, it's kind of do or die, taking it to a warlike extreme, I think would have worked better than kind of making him the psychotic or, kind of like a Norman Bates, type of mentality.
And unfortunately, like, I do feel like the film did have a lot of like, I think it had good intentions, but in all honesty, like I don't think a lot of people knew as much as they obviously know now about PTSD, but like back then I do feel like it's more like, oh, you're a little crazy because of the war. Like, I don't know if it was, I could be wrong, but I don't know if it was definitely like looked at as like a mental issue, like a severe mental issue. Because you're right, they did kind of make him go crazy at some point, which,
Yeah, I mean, they should have, like I said, I think it would have made sense if it was more of a control. And it's not like, I don't think it would have worked if he slipped away entirely like he did. I think if they had a progression of him acting as if this is some type of like plan that they have to execute while they were in the military, if they had done that, I think that would have made sense. And I also believe that Brick, I did read somewhere, I know some of them were all different parts of branches. I do believe Al and Brick were a part of, what they say is the hardest Marine branch, or the hardest branch, which would be Marines.
Right.
So there's a lot of things like that too. And I think, and I could be wrong, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure, I think Marines, out of all military factions, have the most PTSD cases. So that would have been a cool element. Like if I had this, I would have explored with that. Especially like the Marines, you know, my boyfriend is a Marine too, so he's told me some crazy things. But yeah, I think that would have made sense. It just has it has so much potential. And I think at the end of the day, even though the PTSD wasn't accurate, the fact that you had this whole robbery film, and then in the end, what is being talked about and what kind of was like the wrench in this plan, the monkey wrench, would have been PTSD, which I was not expecting from watching this film.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to add PTSD and things like this into situations where you don't think it'll happen. Because a lot of PTSD films or films involving that kind of only center around it. Whereas, no, this was a robbery that went askew because of PTSD, which I thought that was pretty inventive for the time. It wasn't the center of the movie, but it became the moral of the movie. So I thought that was very good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, we think the best part of this movie is the ending. Do you want to talk about the ending for a little bit?
Yeah, so let's talk about that plan that they come up with. So in this casino, there's guards all around, you know, there's workers. It's like a cowboy themed casino. But one of the things that makes like the top security is that on top there are these mirrors, but they're only I think they're called one-way mirrors. So pretty much the people on top, almost like in the rafters kind of, can look down and kind of can see everyone. So if like someone is behind a desk and they ring the button, the guards in the top floor can look down and see everything going on. And so with knowing that, they find this one of the guys responsible for the money trolleys, and they find him and they pretty much are like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch out your cart. And guess what? There's a man in this cart, and he's going to go AWOL. He's going to go ape shit on you if you do stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that, to have like the guy in the cart. They tell him, you're going to go in the bank. You're not going to open up this, but you're going to put the money in the bag and you're going to walk out. And I liked how it was all done. I liked their setup. I liked their gear and everything. I liked how it was suspenseful because it did take its time, but in a nice way. And I thought it was a pretty, like, I was not expecting them to do it that way. I thought they were going to go very typical guns ablazing, you know, this is a hold up type of situation.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do that. But no, I was pleasantly surprised with their plan. And it would have worked if all little Brick's noggin didn't go haywire midway, which was also, it kind of went haywire like at the wrong moment, in my opinion. It would have made sense if he started having issues the minute like the mission started.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's
because with the whole planning thing, if he was showing his colors and like acting weird, if I was in part of that group, I'd be like, no, this dude's gonna get us in trouble. Back out. So they kind of like, he kind of starts like, you know, and I'm using a lot of finger quotes, air quotes here, going crazy. I had air quotes around it. Midway through the film, and it's like, I kind of wish we would have seen that happen when it really would have mattered, which would have been in the end. And I wish there would have been like some light things that would have happened. And then so when he got the money, I feel like it would have been more of a surprise. Because it's like, oh, you know, he's going, you know, crazy right now. So he's going to take the money and it's going to be some big thing. If they had saved it for the end, it would have been like a sweet morsel of a surprise. How about you? What are your thoughts on the ending?
I did like the whole like them like robbing. I like the whole little cowboy outfits they had on. I thought that was funny. Yeah. I don't know, but I like the heist scene. I thought it was very clever, like you were saying. The actual ending of the movie, again, I like the element of friendship. I like that Al was the one to save Brick this time around. But again, I think it could be better. You know, like it
all just kind of made it seem like all these dudes got away scot-free because like, their friend went psycho. Meanwhile, it's like,
you try to rob a casino, all of them, and it was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna take Brick away, but you guys are cool, and it's just like, what? What kind of consequences are those?
Yeah, then Al, who knows? Probably if this ending would have played out 20 more minutes, it would have been Al and Kay at the diner sipping on some milkshakes as if nothing happened. So it just kind of seems like everyone got away scot-free. Meanwhile, all four of the guys at some point were like, you do something, we'll blow your guts off, or whatever it would be, whatever cheesy line they said, to threaten the dude, like, we'll shoot you into the next galaxy, whatever it may be. But I thought it just didn't make sense. If I like those dudes, all of them should have been handcuffed.
Yeah.
All of them.
It wasn't like, I would understand if maybe they were like, oh, he held us against our will. He said he was going to kill us if we didn't do this with him. But nobody brought that up. Nobody said a thing. The police were just like, yeah, we're going to go take him away. And Al was talking to the policeman at one point. It just, like, for 5 people who were robbing a bank, and the one guy that was getting robbed at the bank saw at least 2 of them do it. Like, especially Al. Al was a big part of the plan. Al was, like, front and center with Brick. The ending didn't make a lot of sense. Besides the point of like, oh,
no, it was
friendship.
just like Kim Novak it was just Kim Novak going to the sheriff's office, and she was like, please, the man has PTSD. And they were like, stand back, everyone. We got this here. He's our main suspect. And it's like, what? She was a part of it? All the other dudes were a part of it? One thing I will say that I forgot to mention was I did like the different attributes of each character. I liked how, even though Al looked like another one of the members. And that kind of, I was like, it kind of threw me off, because I don't know if you noticed that too, but there were 2 guys that kind of looked similar.
Yeah.
I think it was Al and maybe Roy. I could be wrong. I could be messing up
He was
names.
in, what was it? Yeah, it was like a younger looking character in Al, I think.
Yeah, so, but one thing, I wish there was a little bit more diversity in terms of who they picked, instead of all just being like the same white guy, but then again, it was the 50s. So I can't put the blame on that. But yeah, like I did like how all of them did have separate personalities, and I thought that was enjoyable. And I think that is something that I enjoyed. All of them had different personalities, and you can tell them apart by the personalities. You had, your stereotypic jokester. You had the good-looking, like, hey, come here, mama, like, that type of dude. You had the guy who's staying tried and true to his cabaret girlfriend, and then you have the rich dude. So I thought you had like a nice medley of characters in the story.
No, yeah, you just couldn't tell them apart. Yeah. That's really what it is. Like,
could be because it's black and white. Maybe if it was in color, but especially just really 2 of the guys I couldn't tell apart.
But then you didn't care.
Like, towards the end of the film.
I didn't care enough to like figure it out. I was just like, okay, those are the 3 other ones that are somewhat
at the end of the day, all I cared about was Al and Brick. I didn't even care so much about Kay.
No,
just because it's like, why is she here? Was it just because they needed a woman somewhere?
They needed a love interest. That's what like the 50s film is about. Like, a lot of movies in the 50s and 60s will just have that female love, because that's what people wanted to see back then. So they just threw her in there, which is fine. It was her, like, one of her biggest, I think it was her first big role or something.
Yeah, before going into Vertigo.
Yes.
Well, before filming in Vertigo. I don't know if she suffered from vertigo. I misspoke. Before starring in Vertigo is what I meant to say.
Yeah, because that's what she's known for. So, I don't know. Yeah, this movie could have done better. So.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of acting, Brick stole the show. Brick was the best out of all of them.
Yeah, no, that's hands down. Like, not that the rest I say were necessarily bad, but Brick was definitely not only the better actor, but was the best character out of everybody.
Out of all of them, for sure. I will say, besides Kim Novak, they're all actors that look pretty familiar, but I can't place, like, aside from Kim Novak, where these guys are from.
Guy Madison was in a lot of famous
He
film.
looks, I think it's also, he kind of reminds me, like, all of them look like at some point they were in 310 to Yuma. And even the guy who plays Brick looks like the actor in 310 to Yuma.
I could see that. I think Guy Madison, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like he was like a hero, like an action hero, maybe a cowboy or something. Like a Western star. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I mean, overall, so what would you rate this film?
It's hard because I don't want to give it a bad score because I appreciate what it's trying to do, but 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah. I feel I have to agree. Five on the dot feels right. I think it, and that doesn't mean like just because it's 5 out of 10, like, oh, it's a 50%. No, in my eyes, the way I look at our scale is like there were 5 things about this film that put it there, that made it okay. To me, like, even though 5 is like a 50% if you do the math, I still thought it was an okay film that had a lot of potential.
Yeah, no, hands down. If it were, it definitely is one of those films that should be remade.
Oh, you know who I think? Oh, I don't know why. I just thought of someone. If I didn't remake it, I would like to see the director who did the Florida Project remake this. I don't know why I see that. I feel like it would work.
Huh. Why do you say? Because he does more like realistic. Oh, I mean, maybe the PTSD part of it.
I feel like it could be really realistic if someone like him did it.
All right, Sean Baker.
Especially, like I said, if you had maybe like the stripper dancer element and these, 4 guys who went to college,
Okay.
blah, blah, blah. Like if it was set in modern, I feel like he could do it.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Make it set it in Central Florida. They try to rob Hard Rock, Tampa.
Comes back. All right, but yeah, so 5 and 5.5 out of 10 from us. If you guys do want to
With that said, yeah, I was going to say, with that said, it's not a horrible film. If you're a film buff, movie fan, whatever, give it a shot. I think it's worth watching. Especially the end, you can kind of go through the middle because the middle kind of just doesn't veg out well. But the ending is I liked. So yeah, I'd recommend it to movie buffs, but not to the common moviegoer.
Yeah, I agree. All
right, so before our send-off and before thanking our Patreon, James, what other films are we doing this week? We're doing, The Passenger.
Yes.
Which is my pick. What's your pick for the week?
We are doing Her by film starring Joaquin Phoenix, which is on Netflix.
Spike Jonze. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So today's Friday. So tomorrow The Passenger comes out, and Sunday and we'll be having a little bonus episode soon. Woo! So stay tuned to that.
Exciting.
Stay tuned. But thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time for when we talk about The Passenger.
Bye.